We are live, day 448. Good morning, friends. I hope you're doing all right. I know I am. And we're about to get started. Monday morning, 5:45. My name's Toby. I am 41 years old and I am training to live an active, self-sufficient and adventurous life. I do so by minding my sleep. I try to get between 7 and 9 hours a night. Last night, 6.5, 6 hours, 45 minutes of actual sleep. So that's a bit on the short end of it, but that's still sufficient. The absolute bare minimum for me is 6 hours. One night, like in so many days. If it gets less than 6 hours, it becomes really problematic. Plus, I had a pretty long nap yesterday afternoon, so pretty sure I'm okay on sleep in the last 24 hours. Minding what I eat, I try to eat within my energy balance, try to eat 2,200 calories. I try to eat a lot of vegetables, leafy greens, all of the healthy, good stuff full of nutrients. And I try to eat 120 to 150 grams of protein in a day to make sure that I'm hitting my strength and muscle building goals. I do strength training, I do conditioning training, and I do mobility work. Try to spend time with people I love and care about, try to do things that I enjoy, and generally try to live a stress-free life. And now, why is all of this important? Well, this is about the way I feel, not about the way I look. I would like to feel fit, capable, and competent for life. The way I've understood it, I am going to live to be 75, maybe 85, who knows, I might even make it to 90. But those additional years of living come with additional years of disease and discomfort, medication, dependency on other people or on care, and apparently some very simple lifestyle changes already now in my 40s, or if you're in your 30s or in your 50s, can help reduce the impact of physical deterioration and disease and discomfort on our lives. So that's one goal. The other goal is 2 kids. I want to set a good example for them, and I want to be an active part of their life for as long as I possibly can, which hopefully is well into my 70s and maybe well into my 80s. That being said, just remember that we're good just the way we are. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on. And it's the person we are today that's going to get us to where we want to be tomorrow. So a bit of kindness to ourselves is going to take us a long way, right? And the only way to get anything done is by showing up and doing the work. So I'm going to hit the timer, 5:47 a.m., and we are going to do a kettlebell workout. And today we're doing a light workout. So we're not doing anything special or outlandish. We are simply going to recover from yesterday's run. But we are going to do some conditioning work with a lightweight and some strength work with a lightweight, which means many repetitions. And we're still using the every minute on the minute program because it just feels good to work in that way. We're just slowly activating the body. Make sure that we are able to do the work this morning, which of course is a big one if we think about it, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be able. We're just going to talk about long-term health this morning as we're training, because there are a couple of things that are worth discussing and considering when it comes to our long-term health and our long-term goals. We're just warming up. Lightweight here, 8 kilos. Nothing fancy, nothing special. See how the body is moving and responds. I'm going to warm up the neck. Do a little bit of mobility for the neck and shoulders in a moment. And let's just see where this takes us today. So, long-term health. Why is this important? Well, I'm not sure about the statistics for the world, but I've been digging into the general health and fitness statistics for the country I live in, which is the Netherlands. And despite it being a relatively healthy country with a lot of healthcare opportunities for people, I think we are seeing a shift in behavior and healthiness that maybe is not as desirable. So if you look at the fact that only 1/3 of the teenagers, so there's 300,000 out of 1.1 million people, moves enough. And we know that sufficient movement, right? Sufficient physical activity is directly tied to a whole bunch of health outcomes, not only directly today, but overall. In life, throughout life, then you start to see a trend and a problem. And in 2022, so most recent survey in this matter, only 72% of the youth is active every week. Weekly, all right? That's still a lot. That still leaves 300,000 people who are not even active or engaged in any kind of sport weekly. Is this a problem? Well, I think it is, because it sets up a life and a set of habits and behaviors that are going to last a lifetime. 1, 2, there are certain processes between the age of 0 and the age of 18, especially physically, that if we do not actually engage our bodies and use them and learn to use them well, we are never going to be able to recapture that stability, mobility, and strength. In other words, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a second, you are missing the best opportunity in life to set up your body for long-term health, long-term fitness, long-term freedom from disease and discomfort. And I wouldn't be calling this out, well, I'd be calling this out if the trend was upwards, and I think more people over time start sports more people over time are getting engaged, but the trend line, sadly, is downward, as in not only are more and more people moving less, but we're also seeing a rise in the amount of people with diseases that are generally related to too much wealth, diseases that can be prevented through combined lifestyle interventions. All right, we're going to start off with the swings, and we're at 16 left. 16. So we're going to do 5. And then 3 and 3. We're trying to work on that technique, that core strength, and that form here. And it's a light training day, so we're going to be doing all right. I'm trying to implement a new rhythm to the week. Monday light, Wednesday heavy, Friday medium, Sunday run. We're going to look into adding an extra day of running to one of those days, probably Wednesday end of day. So those combined lifestyle interventions, as they call them, seem to be very successful at helping people. Second set, third set coming, helping people recoup some of their general health and fitness, some of their general function. That's pretty important. Pretty good to know, right, that we can do that. But the point is, why do we wait until we are already suffering before we actually take any kind of action? Third set, all right? So these are things we need to think about in the context of our life and the trends in society when it comes to long-term health and fitness, is that overall we're fighting against a trend of general health decline. So if you ever wondered why it's so hard to get fit and healthy and stay in shape, there's probably something going on in general with our lifestyle, with the environment we live in, with the food, fifth set coming up, with the food quality that is available, that is in one way or another working against us when we set these goals that we try to work towards when we try to improve our general health and fitness. And just the fact that we can be aware of that maybe also helps us frame the challenge that we set ourselves when we say, well, I want to invest in my long-term health. I want to be healthier and fitter. Because the standard, the bar at the moment, is really low. All right? For you to be doing more than most of the population, all you need to do is show up twice a week for some intense exercise, moderate to high, and you are already doing more than most. But as I explained in today's short, does that really matter? 5th set down, 6th set coming up. Does that really matter? When the baseline is you need to be doing 4 to 5 times of training a week to get yourself into good shape for you at your own level of health and fitness that you want to have for life? The answer is no. So we're now fighting two trends. We're generally going to be surrounded by people every day who are not taking as good care of themselves as they should. Yeah, that's one. Two, the general idea is that these minimum guidelines that are set out are going to be sufficient to get and keep us healthy. For an average person, they might be sufficient to keep you healthy, 7th set. But they are definitely not sufficient to get you healthy if your starting point is that you are overweight or more than overweight, what we would call obese. Seventh set, 8-1 incoming. Haven't built a solid base in your younger teenage years for life, and generally have adopted a lifestyle for the last 10 to 20 years that is sedentary, destructive, has not incorporated the habits that overall keep us fit and healthy. So, it's it. Okay, 9th set coming up. Right, so just to frame this conversation on long-term health, this conversation about why sleep matters, why nutrition matters, why activity matters, and activity breaking it down into generally just moving around walking during the commute to the store and back, doing things around the house and the garden, versus exercise, right? Nutrition we've talked about, the social function, the pleasure function, and the functional function, and how to balance that. And the 10th set coming up. Like I said, a light day. Just getting 160 swings in as a starting point. We're going to be doing a couple of more things, but all nice and easy. All right. So, whatever your starting point, just be aware that if you are like the average person, there is a lot of ground to cover. All right? All right. Whew. Celebrate. Sip of water. Now we're going to dive into some facts about aging. And you'll see why I started with the teenage years in a moment. By the way, if you're dropping by in chat and you want to say hi, just go ahead, say hello. I'd love to know someone's watching. We have a conversation. You can ask me questions. It's up to you. If you don't know who you're talking to, my name is Toby. I am 41 years old and I'm trying to live an active, self-sufficient and adventurous life. And I'm training for that as well. Just by minding my sleep, minding what I eat, strength training, conditioning training, mobility training. Try to spend time with people I talk and care about, do things that I enjoy, and generally living a stress-free life. This is about the way I feel, not about the way I look. I would like to feel fit, capable, and competent for life. All right, we're going to do a series of high pulls. So that means I'm going to kettlebell swing. I'm going to pull it up and down. We're going to do that 5 times on the left, 5 times on the right. Ghost Phantom. Endurance training. Any tips? Definitely, but it does depend on your goal and your goal and your current level of fitness, right? So I think it's important to distinguish cardio training. Well, let me just explain that before I start. Distinguish cardio training from strength endurance training. So which one is it? Is it running for long distances, or is it able to produce physical strength output over time? For cardio, you can build that endurance to modalities, right? You have the long distance, long time cycles training, continuous steady state, I think is the English word for it, working below 80% of your max heart rate. You've got the high intensity interval trainings working above 80% of the heart rate. Short intervals could be 30 seconds, could be 4 minutes, with appropriate amount of rest, but not enough rest that you fully recover. Steady state endurance is over time walking at that steady state. You can go as low as I think your zone 2 cardio, right, which is about 60% of your heart rate, or push into 70. The margins aren't really that precise. If we're doing strength endurance, we're going higher reps, lower weights or body weights, and we're building that up over time. Those are different modalities that we can train in. I think the biggest bang for your buck is probably you're going to get out of being consistent over time, probably with a mix of the different modalities. So even for strength endurance, right? We can do strength and then we can do strength endurance. So build bigger muscles and then teach the muscles how to perform more over time, and with cardiovascular steady state complemented with HIIT to push that boundaries, to increase that capacity to train more. But maybe you can tell me what your sport is, and we can talk about it while I do my high pulse. And we're going to complement that with some straightforward goblet squats. And if the answer was nonsensical, by the way, also please let me know. I always curious to learn, but that is what I understand of it, and that is how I train for my endurance, if that makes sense. So what I do, to give you an example, is with the 16 kilo kettlebell, 200 swings every minute on the minute, is very HIIT-like. And then on Sunday mornings, I go for a 45 to 60 minute steady state run. Anywhere between, 55 to 75% of my heart rate, but usually 55 to 65. And that combination, generally, together with the strength training that we do, allows me to walk up 12 flights of stairs at work without a big issue, for example. Well, anyway, I was so happy that I got a question. I forgot to say thanks for dropping by. And I hope you're doing well where you are in the world, and that you're doing well, having a good end of the day or start of the day. And thanks a lot for being interested. I appreciate that. So hey, let's look at the long-term health kind of implications here. So we need to talk about a couple of facts about the human body for us to understand why I'm making such a point about people already at a young age not moving sufficiently to be fit and healthy throughout their teens, but also as adults. I run, see, stand well. Hey, that's my vision wise. Yeah, it's, I don't know what age bracket we're talking about. 10 miles is, give or take, 15 kilometers. I'm in Amsterdam, right? So we speak kilometers. So that's an interesting point. So if the goal is to run for an extended period of time, understanding the baseline technique, understanding the pacing, understanding what is required from our bodies in terms of fuel, but also in terms of muscular ability, and then cardio ability, and then creating a plan to work towards that over time is likely key. Very few people, even though I have known a couple, wake up one morning and run a marathon. Right? So breaking that down into the increased stroke volume that you probably need, but also the muscular capacity and endurance, but also the technique, maybe, to be able to do so pain-free. And I know for me, at 41, it is possible to run long distances, but for the overall goal that I have, which is general health and fitness, it is not necessary, because it is also very punishing on the body. So for example, have you considered breaking that down into 3 times 5? So you get the miles in, but not in one go. As an example. And I'm no running coach, right? So you need to look up maybe someone like Steve Magnus, who can talk about this at length. But I think the key would be to understand the goal and then break down the path to that goal over maybe a period of, Olympians have 36 to 48 months. Should have done a hand change there. To work towards their peaks. So we should work on, horizons of 12 to 24 months for significant health improvements and health goals. It's probably going to benefit us if we become a bit more forward-looking in our approach. I.e., if we're able to get to 5 miles pain-free twice a week, right? What is it then going to take to getting to 6 miles pain-free twice a week? 7, 8, 9, 10 over time. But that's a bit beyond my realm of expertise. But I hope that is helpful. Okay. And some more squats. And then we're going to go into push-ups and cleans. 5 miles daily. Well, that's a long distance. Okay, yeah. In that case, probably better disregard everything I said. Check out Steve Magnus. I think he's the world's best running coach. He has a very decent, small YouTube channel, underrated for the level of expertise. And he probably has some tips to help you get there. And again, training for a marathon and doing that well without damaging your body too much. But damage is definitely going to happen with a physical challenge like that. It was important to think about training, fueling, and building up the general capacity, if that makes sense. Yes. Oh, you're very welcome. I appreciate you dropping by and asking a question. And good luck. Like I always say, we're good just the way we are. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on. Because it's the person we are today is going to get us to the goal we set for ourselves tomorrow, right? So a bit of kindness goes a long way. And that's an interesting journey you're on. When you're done with it, feel free to drop by and let me know whether you succeeded or not, whether you participated or not, whether you got through the training, found a decent program or not. I'd be curious to hear and to know. And I think it's a very cool goal to have. I remember setting it for myself in my 20s and giving up at the 18-kilometer mark, not during competition, but during training, simply because I really did not like the way I felt. So, just keep that in mind. And you be in touch. And good luck on that journey. I think it's a cool journey to be on. Long-term health and where we can take this. Right? Why these teenage years are so important. Why I'm starting off the conversation by framing the conversation around a worrying trend for today's youth. Well, very simple. Deterioration is a given. I think that is the main message here, and what that we need to understand. It doesn't feel that way in our teenage years and in our 20s, but somewhere in your mid-30s, maybe early 30s, definitely in your 40s, you are going to notice some changes. Deterioration is a given. Absolutely. There comes a point in your life, biologically, where you are working against the tides of biology and nature. For example, beyond 30, our maximum aerobic capacity begins to decrease by about 1% a year. You know that little basic formula. Your max heart rate, 220, minus your age. Yeah, that's that, right? So what does that mean? That means that over time, you become less capable. And I'm just going to fix this before I start bleeding all over the place. You become less capable. All right? And this capacity is important for life as we know it, because the moment our aerobic capacity goes, yeah, the moment our aerobic capacity goes, we start to move less. We become less active over time because it gets harder to walk upstairs, to go on hikes, to move around town, to do things in the garden. And that's just a natural decline over time, all right? It diminishes relatively over time. If your baseline is low to begin with, I cannot believe I have to say this out loud. If the baseline of cardiovascular health in your 20s is low to begin with, it means that you in your 30s and 40s are going to have to work much harder to remain as physically capable and active as you could be and as you need to be healthy. All right? Deterioration is inevitable. That's what I'm going to make my next short about. All right? Deterioration in bone density after you're 30. Same story. Bone density is determined by how well we challenge our bones, our structure, throughout our childhood and teens into our early 20s maybe. All right? Then it stays stable in our prime years, 20 to 40. And then guess what? Osteopenia. And if you become really brittle, osteoporosis. So again, deterioration is inevitable. If you start out at a lower base of bone density, you become more brittle earlier on and later on in life. Kurd, hey, Kurd, I think I've seen you on the channel before, right? Is that correct? Let me know in the chat. Thanks for dropping by again. And I appreciate you saying hi. And I hope you're doing well where you are in the world. Ghost Phantom, I think it's mindset as well. The 90s moving like they're in their 20s. Kurd, yeah, that's what I thought. Part of it, Ghost Phantom, part of it is mindset. But it's not separate. I don't believe anymore. When I was 20, I thought my mindset was going to overcome everything. I don't think mindset can consistently trump biology. I think mindset and strategy can. But I do think that the mindset of someone in their 90s who is fit and capable is definitely a different mindset from someone in their 70s who is entirely sedentary and struggles to get up off the couch to grab another snack versus the person in their 90s who makes a point out of going for 10 to 30 minutes of walking, doing some gardening, making a puzzle, reading a book, and generally lives an active lifestyle. I think there are a couple of things that factor into this, right? You know, there's a health gap between wealth, between education, i.e. lower wealth, less health, more wealth, more health. We know there's a gap between education. Higher education tends to lead to better health outcomes. I think those two might be related, right? And then coming to mindset, it is talking about, well, what have I got to live for? What do I want to get out of this life? And for me, that is a lot. I have books I want to write, children I want to see do well in life. You understand? That is the mindset. that I bring to this tale. But for someone who doesn't have that outlook, who doesn't have some wealth, for whom life is a struggle, perhaps the mindset is, well, I don't care. It doesn't matter what I do. I'd prefer not to do anything at all. I think Peter Attia talks about the Centennial Decathlon. I think that's a good starting point. He's in the military. Yeah, he was in the military. Yeah, I mean, taking good care of his body, probably living an active life. Don't underestimate what good genes will do for you. So, may have hit the jackpot. Right, there was a story in the newspaper about this lady who turned 114 and then passed away after a long and happy life. Turns out she had genes that kept her 20 years younger. Can't beat that with any amount of kettlebell swinging, if you understand what I'm saying. So, I think the main thing here is in the mix. Sure, mindset is going to matter, especially when it comes to being consistent and persevering. But in general, I will say that it is always going to be a combination of factors that start with a baseline developed in our teenage years. And that's like 2 kilos, by the way. That is purely because I need to recover and rebuild my capacity in my shoulders. Consistency, mindset, baseline, environment, demands, responsibilities, commitments. The mix of those genes, habits, outlook, availability of resources, I don't know what's up with this wrist, but it is now really starting to bother me. To go and fix it again. If that makes any sense. And look, we talked about bone density, right? And how bone density is an important factor, and that we develop that in our youth, childhood years and youth, and we can maintain some of that well if we properly exercise and care. But the point being is, deterioration is inevitable, and deterioration being inevitable, we want to start in as good a position as we can when the deterioration hits, in terms of habits and routines that are going to help us stay fit and healthy. At least that will be my approach. So we've talked about max aerobic capacity, bone density. Let's talk about muscle and strength loss. After 50, guess what happens? Let me know in the chat if you know this answer. Right? We begin to lose muscle, volume, speed, and eventually strength over time. So, again, if the baseline when we hit 50 is low, we become frailer and more brittle quicker. We age and deteriorate quicker. If we manage to final sets coming up, if we manage to set a slightly higher bar for ourselves throughout our 30s and 40s, our baseline is better when we hit 50. It means we have an easier time staying healthier as we age. Because it's not just the baseline, right? It's not just the aerobic capacity, the bone density, the muscle volume, the muscle strength, the muscle speed. It is also the lifestyle and habit that surround us. And that's why I started talking about combined lifestyle interventions, because what you see is that fixing one of the things, fixing your sleep, fixing your nutrition, fixing your exercise, fixing your stress, fixing the number of hours that you sit on themselves don't yield big enough results. But taken together, a lot of small things, many drops, will crack the stone. So we want to make those many cracks over time. So what my body's capable of. Hover, is up. All right. Well, it's a fair challenge to set yourself. I think there are a lot of marathon finishers for who, how should I put that? Finishing a marathon is a proper life-changing experience. I think it can't hurt to once in your life find your limits in a safe and controlled social setting with support of family and friends and loved ones. I think it's a great goal to have, to work towards. I think personally, my life experience at 41 tells me the joy and the reward is going to be in the full process to getting there. Because once we finish the marathon, the only thing left to do is finish another marathon or a more extreme run, right? But the path to a marathon probably is a 1K, 5K, 10K, 12K, 15K, 18K, 20K, 22K, 25K, 32K, and then a marathon. So there are a lot of fun intermediate steps over the course of, if you want to do it fast, you can probably run a marathon in 3 to 6 months. If I understand the literature, if you want to do it for health benefits and really give yourself a challenge, do it over the course of 24 months and pace yourself and become the strongest, best version of yourself to take on that challenge, enjoying the increments along the way. There are different ways to to look at it, right? Whichever path. I always say health and fitness is incredibly personal. As long as it works for the individual, for you, it's a good way to go. Hey, getting on past 10 miles could be my form. Yeah, thanks, I appreciate that, but it is a sad fact of life. I am from the era where Tom Cruise and Kevin Costner were making cool movies in The Goonies and Karate Kid, and which is why I binge watch Cobra Kai, but that's a different story altogether. In any case, friends, that's it. I'm going to make myself a drink and prepare breakfast for the family and get out of this sweat-soaked t-shirt for a light day. That was a good exercise. See, you can get a lot of work done with a 12 kilo. For those of you watching, my name is Toby. I am 41 years old and I train to live an active, self-sufficient and adventurous life. I do so by minding my sleep, trying to get between 7 and 9 hours a night, minding what I eat within my energy balance, fuel for the weightlifting and the sports, specifically in terms of proteins, 120 to 150 grams of protein. Might be worth looking into marathon or endurance running nutrition, both for recovery and for output, by the way. And I try to eat a lot of greens and vegetables. I show up for strength training, for conditioning training. Today you saw combination strength conditioning training and mobility. Tomorrow on a live stream every day, somewhere between 5 and 6 a.m. Amsterdam time. So if you're interested in that, go ahead, subscribe, and you'll get a notification if you turn on notification, and we can continue this conversation about health and fitness. Today's message: deterioration is inevitable. So we can never start soon enough to build a good base to enjoy later on in life. That being said, friends, remember, this is about the way I feel, not about the way I look. I want to feel fit, competent, and capable for life. We're good just the way we are. We've got to love ourselves before we can move on. It's the person we are today that's going to get us to where we want to be tomorrow. It's a bit of kindness. It's going to go a long way, because there are enough people who want to put us down, so we just lift ourselves up. All right, Cord, Ghost Phantom, I appreciate you dropping by, saying hi, for all the messages. Stay well, be well, good luck on the journey, and at any time feel free to post an update and let me know how you're doing. All right, and remember, the only way to get anything done is by showing up and doing the work. So I will see you tomorrow, friends. Take care. And subscribe.